The family court is a cash cow for states.
So, Kevin, do they ask for like a marriage license? Like, how do they know? Like, when you have a baby, do they
Uh-huh.
say, "Hey, let me get your marriage license so I can see who"? Like, how do they verify who
They
the
don't
husband was, or
see
when was the last
a
when?
woman in some states, a woman can just claim a man as the father and his name goes on there.
In terms of what you
And
said though about the husband after I think you said 11 months or
the
something like
husband,
that.
see, when you're divorced, if it's less than 11 months, they assume that the child was born. They assume that she got pregnant as a result of the marriage.
Right, but
Because
like
what they're
how
trying
do
to
they
do
know it's
protect they're trying to protect the husband's rights. They don't assume that the woman was having an extramarital affair or seeing anybody else. So they wanted the child to be able to find their parent. That assumes the best case. So that's why when as soon as she said divorce, my name went on there. I,
how did they determine though? Like what if she just said whoever? Like how do you
well, she
determine?
couldn't. As soon as she said divorce, they said when was the divorce final? And
And they
once
just
she
take
said
your word?
it's been final. It's been final for 5 months. Automatically, it was me because all you gotta do is go back to the state filing. I'm there.
That's what I'm saying. Do they just verify like marriage licenses and whatnot?
Yep. Because once you say single, married, or divorced, divorce sets into motion an automatic slew. They start looking for divorce records, divorce filings, boom. Because what they're trying to prevent is us um, getting divorced and I had a kid out there and I have no ties to the kid. They always want to have somebody to pay. So they had to have me. I actually had to go find. I know the guy's name, and I had to go get all this stuff to make sure he was responsible. But that's an easier case because that was um, I don't forgot the law, but it's in every 50 states. And it's like 11 months or less. The ex-husband's name has to go in there and he has to deny, which is crazy because you're talking about two people who just got a divorce and they have to try to work this out. What's worse is a woman can just put somebody's name on there. She can just say, "Oh, it was a wealth engineering's child," and okay, well, what is got his name? His address, phone number? Don't have it. So you know what they do? What state is he in? What city is he in? Oh, he's in Dallas. Okay, we're gonna put a listing in the Dallas classifieds or personal ads. Hey, wealth engineering, you got a baby, and they assume that is service. Instead of serving you papers, saying you've been served in a local paper. So you look up and 2 years later, your name's on the birth certificate. And yeah, but here's the thing: as long as it doesn't really become a problem until a woman is collecting state benefits or anything like that, that's when it really gets to be out of control. So the family court system is the issue that most men want to stay out of. It's the one thing that it's such a cash cow for states. They're incented to get people into it. I mean, it. Have you guys ever heard of anything? What is it called? Civil forfeitures, where you can just be driving down the street and the cops pull you over and you got too much cash in the car, and they say, "Well, you got we." You can even have bank receipts, and they're like, "Well, hmm, you mind if we look in your car?" And okay, we're gonna bring and they bring the DEA out and the drug sniffing dog. 67 to 100% of all U.S. bills have traces of drugs on it. $334 million was seized from American citizens last year in civil forfeitures, and 90% of it is still tied up. The police department reporting gets anywhere from 70 to 80% of the money, and it skips your Fourth Amendment and goes directly into the federal system, and you have to fight to get back. What I'm saying is ultimately there's systems in place to take money from citizens that average people can't fight. And family court is one of the most insidious ones. That's why men would do well. That's why your thing won't work, Kay, because they want people to get tied up in this system. Because it should be easy to avoid.
So
So,
that's why they won't do the just protocol
well,
test.
because if wealth engineering is the father, if you say wealth engineering is the father and he's making uh 2 or 3 times what the other guy's making, he's responsible. He's not getting any benefits. But if you say this guy's the father and you getting state benefits, they'd rather have him on the line because they ain't got to pay WIC and all the other kind of stuff. You got to look at the money. And here's another thing: you family court judges tend to get a percentage of what they collect.
That's what TLA was saying once. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
this is why I'm saying a man. This is why that's why I want women to understand. It's not why a lot of women feel offended. If women, here's one thing I hope that we start having more for. I hope we start having more empathy for what men go through. Women have more empathy for men. But before that happens, is men have to be humanized. Because we're supposed to feel empathy for women automatically. This is what this conversation, you're supposed to feel empathy for a woman being offended. I'm like, well, can you understand that if you one of that 2 to 30% of men who is that parental discrepancy, where's the empathy for what he ends up in? Because the least problematic thing is he would have is he just found out the child wasn't his. If it's in family court or some shit like that, you got much bigger problems. So I hope that helped, folks. I'm gonna fall back. I know there's some other people that want to get on here.
I think Just Jay had a question for you.
Oh, you do? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just Jay.
Do you have a question?
Mr. Samuels.
Hey.
I have to say first that what you said about humanizing a person does matter, because I have to admit, I never cared for you, but I never took time to look into your content, right? So I knew that was an opportunity for me to learn something about myself, right? So with that being said, I would like your perspective on the community when you were speaking about the image of Black males. Me being a single mother, there was a live last night that went on for hours. At any rate, there was the issue about stepfathers. And just a lot of hurt in general, right? So a lot of things I heard that I um, took in was a gentleman said in the chat that single mothers are doomed and their children are doomed. So when it comes to the community as a whole, some people say there is no community, some say there is. I feel like there's a community because ultimately we're not judged as individuals, regardless if we want to be or not. So, what is the approach on, I guess, building up the community and continuing to further the education about controlling fertility and all those things? I guess it's kind of the short question.
Well, that's a long answer, but the community, assuming there is a fix, the fix is going to be between how Black women are teaching each other what a man is for, how to approach a man. Number one, because most of us, if you listen to most women, they listen to each other before they listen to us.